This show is sponsored by PowerfulWomenUSA.com, a place to be inspired by other women. Hey, everybody, I'm Jill Conway, and this is Secrets of Powerful Women, a show dedicated to celebrating and supporting strong and successful women and sharing their stories. I am hoping that you will be inspired to pursue your own dreams, reclaim your voice, and discover your strengths. So my guest today is Stephanie Georges. Stephanie is a former top-ranked Wall Street analyst, C-suite executive, and now co-founder of the Meraki Dignity Project for Women. Stephanie, thank you for being here and welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. My pleasure.
So Stephanie, let's jump right in. So because I'm so intrigued by it, what is the Meraki Dignity Project?
Okay, so I could go on for a while, so
you can go. I'll cut you if I need. Yeah, go ahead.
But Meraki I'm Greek. I'm first generation. I grew up in Brooklyn before it was a thing, and Meraki was something that my mom always expressed, not verbally, but just in the way she was. And it was, for her, it was painting. And Meraki is that thing that you do where you pour your whole and immerse yourself into something with creativity, soul, and love. So the Meraki Dignity Project was born out of creating a space where women can be given the clarity, confidence, and agency to pursue their Meraki. So that's our dream. And we think that that is really what dignity feels like.
All right. So let's unpack that. So what you paired it with dignity, right? So why? What does that mean why would a woman be like, ooh, Meraki, what is that? Yeah.
Right. So dignity for us, dignity is really something that connects us as humans, right? We all have dignity and no one can take it away. And so we can honor it, we can violate it. But when we honor it, our own and others, it's generative, like it spreads, and similar when we violate it. So it is a common connection. And in a world where things are so divided, where, equity sort of became this, unfortunately became this word that got co-opted as a zero-sum game, women win at the expense of men. And, it just became this competition. Dignity felt to us like a way to reframe how we can think about giving women power and giving women the opportunities to advance. Because dignity, you can't argue with it. It's there. So that was really at the center of what we were focused on.
I love that, and I believe I really I agree with that statement so much, because like people have reached out to me or say things like, oh, it's just women. And it's like, this isn't an anti-men show. This isn't I love men. Like, that's not, and I think the world's a beautiful thing when we can see the differences in each other and celebrate them. But this is, like you're speaking of, this is like just supporting women. That's it. Right. Like, this is like, yes, you can do whatever you want. You can say whatever you want. You can be empowered and not at the loss of anyone else.
Right. It actually can be, like I said, I use the word generative. I don't know. It can sort of be like grow, because for so long, women have operated in these systems that were not designed for them. So if we can sort of liberate that and give women the opportunity to have agency and access to things. And that's starting to happen. We can talk about that. But if we can do that, it's not just going to benefit women, it's going to benefit society, right? We will become less fragmented. We'll be more connected. We'll be able to get the full value of women in society and the contributions they can make. So I think I'm 100% with you, Jill. It's not, and I get asked that question a lot. Oh, why not support men? I'm happy to, but I think starting with women is a really good place to start, since they've lived in these systems for so long that haven't been designed.
Right, exactly. Right, where women don't feel supported, where women speak up and are called, great, wonderful names, like I say that, as a joke, but I mean, it's true. A strong woman isn't exactly revered as a strong man is. Right.
Having been in corporate environments for a long time and being grateful for having those opportunities, I will wholeheartedly reinforce what you just said. I mean, I have sat in conference rooms where I have literally been invisible, talked over, ignored. I mean, we talk about this, mansplained. I'm not saying anything that women haven't experienced before, but I feel like that that's still a big barrier to women feeling like they want to stay in those environments because it becomes so exhausting and so tiring and so inhibiting to their own health, frankly, that it's hard to function.
Right. Right. Let's talk about that. You have such an incredible resume, right? So let's talk about your journey. So, first of all, I always ask this question because I love to see the evolution and the many pivots, usually what that as women do, because I do want to keep driving the message home that you don't have to stay at the one job and the one career for your whole entire life. I think that's silly. It's great if you can get a decade or 2 or 3 out of it, but like figure it out. Find your passion, like your project. So what did you go to school for? What did you want to be
Oh my
when you were
gosh.
young?
I haven't been asked that question in a long time, Jill. I'm so glad. I hope my mom isn't listening.
Young
But
Stephanie. What did young Stephanie want to do?
I was, like I said, I was born first gen in Brooklyn, and we were really put on a path to have sort of a vocation. So I wanted to be a doctor, or that's what I was told. So I went to college, pre-med, and that lasted about a minute because I went into the first big lecture hall in class on biology. And I looked to my right and I looked to my left, and everyone knew how to take notes, and everybody seemed to be like nodding their head. And I was completely lost. I'm not a quitter, but at that moment I was so overwhelmed and so unprepared that I I guess I gave up. But
Yeah.
but that was
I don't think you did. I think you realized this is not for me, right?
it was not for me. It was
Right.
not for me. And
Yeah.
I've took an economics course as just a kind of a lark, and my dad always had us talk about stocks. I don't know why. At the dinner table, he was really sort of a dabbler, and he would always talk about stocks and bonds and explain them. So I thought, well, let me take economics. Maybe I could talk to my dad. And so I did, and I fell in love with it, Jill. It was so much fun. It was like math and logic and psychology and behavior all wrapped into one package. So I just kept doing that. And that's where my Wall Street kind of entree began. But I will say one of the best, to your point, one of the best, one of the best preparations for my entire career was learning how to communicate and learning how to write. So I know you're a journalist. I was a journalist in college.
Nice.
And I think those skills of being curious and inquisitive and learning how to communicate in various modalities really, really carried me, and I think in every career. So my first job on Wall Street was really hired to write research, to communicate the story, not because of my understanding of finance, but to communicate. And that's a skill that I think has carried me through my career.
I love that. It's so funny because, and I tell this to my kids, I tell this to so many people. Sometimes you don't know what you do want, right? But you know what you don't want. So in your case, you sat, like I'm giving this pre-med thing a role, and then you get in there, you're like, oh no.
These
It's
are
like
not my people.
right. This does not float my boat. Like this does not interest me. And I feel like sometimes you just have to, it's more figuring out what you don't want and that leads you to that economics class, right? Which I love. Yeah. Yeah. So you were on Wall Street for how long?
For 25 years.
Oh, God bless. Okay. So
It
that's a
was
stressful
it
environment.
was stressful. And it was especially stressful because, Wall Street was kind of changing rapidly at that point. It was in the 90s, I'll date myself, and it was a real roller coaster. And to be fair, Wall Street was beginning to really open up to women, and that was kind of to our advantage. It was kind of
Yeah.
this, we were the doors were opening up to what was an all boys
Right.
network
Right.
and all boys,
Right.
but the culture really
Didn't
hadn't
change.
changed. And
Yeah.
in a way, they didn't really know what to do with us. Like one of the first excursions we had, there was a whole batch of us that came, a whole group of women that came in at that time to Morgan Stanley. And the CEO was like, "Oh, we're going to teach you to play golf." And so that was sort of the best way to assimilate women. was,
Interesting. Right? Right. Well,
Mhm.
that's a good point, right? Because the doors open, but then you walk through them and you're like, wow, this it's like an all boys school that just said, hey, we're going to let in women and we'll just treat them exactly the same. It's like, not really.
I know, and so much exactly, and and it's all it's all well intentioned, and
Yes.
people are trying to do the best they can. But I think the sort of the scaffolding, the systems, the support, the even just not being able to look at another woman across the table because there weren't enough of us. So you're in a meeting and the conversation turns to sports or turns to something that maybe you're not as equipped or you don't feel as confident, especially early in your career, to talk about, and you don't even have someone to look at and maybe roll your eyes collectively with and say, "Oh, here we go." And that feels it's scary. You feel like you don't have permission to participate.
Right. So how did you get through that time? Because I feel like there's still industries like that that are like that. And like the banking industry, boy, that's grown too. But you still see a lot of men, especially at the, in the C suites, right? So how did
You
you
know,
manage?
for
Yeah.
me, I was lucky, and I this is something that I've told every woman, and it's nothing that's secret or new, but for me it was a mentor, having a mentor, just finding, and it doesn't need to be a woman. In my case, I had two mentors. One was a man who was really, really helpful, a senior, almost as if I was his daughter. He was so thoughtful and caring and really was able to empathize with what others couldn't see and was there to sort of help. I mean, didn't give me unfair advantages, but just sort of, you know, chimed in meetings for me, understood that it was, I lacked the confidence at that point early in my career to maybe speak up for myself, and would sort of quietly or even sometimes more loudly say, "Let's hear what Stephanie has to say." So that was just a gift. So I think seeking someone out or finding someone, again, it doesn't necessarily have to be a woman. I think it helps, but sometimes a man can be really helpful because they may have more credibility in the organization. So that was huge, huge. And I think my second piece of advice is, I think going back to your point, like nothing is permanent, right? So take people tend to think of risk as bad.
Yeah.
And one thing I learned on Wall Street, even in investing, risk can be good. Risk allows you to take a leap, like you said, like walking out of that pre-med class,
Yeah.
and it opens up so many other doors. So I guess to me, this idea that I think we have this fear that everything we say or everything we do is going to just be um, permanent. Recognize that you can, it's all fluid.
Right. It's all fluid. You can change your mind and it's okay.
Yeah,
Right.
it's actually could be great.
Right. Right. All right. So you did that for 25 years. And then you left that industry and right. So what'd you do next?
Okay, so I had a few children in there, so
Which is,
that
oh,
got,
well, that's another. No, but I mean, that's hard too.
I know, and I was able to balance it pretty well. I mean, I'm not sure, um, you know, I was always feeling like I wasn't giving enough in any one avenue of my life. I think that's another thing that, um, you know, part of the work that I'm doing with Meraki, which we'll get to, but I do want to say that one of the things that really struck me was we just feel like we're never giving enough, and yet we're juggling so many things. So I think I felt like I'm not giving my kids enough time. I had my third child, 9/11 happened, and the whole world changed for me. And I think I just had this moment of, you know, I remember distinctly, Jill, standing in an airport, getting ready to board on a plane, and it was probably the end of March, and I had been on my 14th flight, and you know, I had my little pumping machine carrying it onto the plane, and my son was 2 months old, and I I literally could not hand the flight attendant. I couldn't hand the gate agent my ticket. I like couldn't do it. And I was like, I don't even know. I was just completely paralyzed. So I turned around, went home, took a breath, called my boss. And of course they were like, take a break. And I continued on. I went back, continued on for about 2 months. And then I thought, this isn't giving me joy anymore. And
Yeah.
so
There
I
it
took,
is. Yeah.
I was like, let me try something different.
Yeah. Wow. Oh my God. What a power moment. It
Exactly.
didn't probably feel that way at the time you're breaking.
Thank you for reframing it for me, because I felt, and it is scary because you think my whole identity is wrapped up in my business card. Like, that's my title. What am I going to do? Oh, it's amazing how many doors opened up, and I just started to talk to people. And I found this really cool job that nobody wanted. I went and worked for this telecom company. My area of specialty was telecommunications, but I went to work for this telecommunication company that was on its way to bankruptcy. It was this Fortune 500 company that had made a few bad moves, and they were like, "We need help, Stephanie. We need someone to help us think about, how we can get investors to really understand us." And so I took a leap again, and it was
Scary.
scary.
Yeah. I always say like when you break down, because I had one of those breakdown moments where you're like, I just can't do this anymore. Right. You break open. Someone said that to me. You're breaking open. You're not breaking down, and I think that's a powerful, powerful thing when you're like, something's got to change and I'm going to have to do it. But it takes courage. Like you said, wow, strength and courage to not get on that plane. And then 1,000 things I'm sure are going through your head. What are they going to say? Did I just quit my job?
What am I going to
Right.
do? Who am I?
Yeah.
Who am I
Oh,
if I'm not my title or my job or my flight that I have to take? And you're just so busy and so intense that you fail to think about um, about yourself, and is it satisfying yourself? Not just your physical health, your mental health, your physiological health. Your anyway. So you're absolutely. I love that. You know,
yeah.
breaking open.
Yeah. 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 Well, I think that's a much bigger conversation when the whole "who am I" conversation, and like you said, like I think I've had to deep dive into that myself when you have to like write your titles and your job, because I left news and then I was like, what? Right? If you're not that, everyone knows you as that. So who are you? And then who am I? And then you'd go into the labels you self-define yourself as, even as, and I say this with love because I'm a mom too, as a mom, right? But we're so much more than a mom. Like moms are everything, they're everything. But at some point, who is Stephanie, you know, at the core? Who is Jill at the core without, Wall Street analysts, without all these things? So that's scary times. Scary times,
It's
Stephanie.
scary.
It is. And I've been there too. So I understand that is, and I think so many women, I hope, who are listening and saying like, God, I'm either there where I'm like, this isn't working for me anymore, right? Or I've already passed that point where I'm like, oh, I got to figure out who I am.
And I think I agree. And I think sometimes it just ambushes you. right? You're thinking it's all, you're holding it together, like, with paper clips and duct tape. And so, and there's sometimes, I think, for women, and I'm sure for men, but I can only speak from a
Sure.
woman's perspective. I think sometimes there's like pride in that. Like, how many things am I juggling? And there's this narrative that we tell each other, like, oh, and I did this, and I took the kids, and I went to the birthday party, and
I
that's
haven't
all.
slept, and I haven't slept for, I only sleep 3 hours a night. It's like, well, oh, I'm sorry, because I sleep a
Right.
lot more.
Exactly. And then you show up at the gate and you're like, I can't do this. This is not for me. So I do think there's this, there's this, I think it's just even that much harder. And that's why I think it does tend to, like I said, ambush us, creep up, and then just, wow, this is not where I am. But then there's no preparation in, well, what does that mean? And how do I recalibrate? And some of that is just where you are in your life, right? What may have satisfied you at one phase in your life may have played out. And so finding the permission to sort of think about things differently and let that go is, I think, does take some time and courage, as you said.
I think we all get there, though, at some point in our lives. I think we all get there. All right. So before we head to break, all right. So you did the C-suite at the telecom company, and then what happened?
Well, the company, we ended up merging with another company, which was really the best path out, and all of that was a wild ride. So I think I had alluded that to the fact that nobody wanted this job, and I think I felt like when you play poker and you don't know who the sucker is, it's probably you. I sort of was like, oh my God, did I just walk into something? But there was nothing more exhilarating. And this became sort of my joy. It was nothing more exhilarating than working with a team, kind of our backs pressed against the wall. And we had to figure out a way out. And I learned that that was something that I loved to do. It was just, we had really only about 7 days of cash left. And we had, just finding our path through and sort of being a team and building the culture to do that. That was a really fun experience and exhilarating and lifelong learning. We merged with another company. The company was based in Monroe, Louisiana. And I, as I mentioned, grew up in Brooklyn, which geographically may be close to Monroe, but,
Very different.
culturally
But it's different.
really
Yes.
different.
Yeah.
And so I did that for 2 years, or for a year. Sorry, I did that for a year, and then I left and went on to do a similar role in 3 other companies. So I kind of did this sort of, I was a serial transformation, repositioning, rebranding at a variety of different companies for a variety of different industries. So that became my kind of re-identification. Rather than being, I'm this Wall Street person, I'm this person that can help companies navigate through these kind of difficult transitions that they need to make.
And that is our segue. We're going to talk about then the Meraki Dignity Project, because I feel like you help women navigate those same situations, right?
Yeah.
Through life transitions. So, but let's take a quick break here. We'll be back with Stephanie Georges after the commercial break. You're listening to Secrets of Powerful Women, everybody. Help me get the word out. Please share this with your friends, because I think this is so good. We'll be right back. Hi, everybody. I'm Jill Conway. Thank you so much for listening and loving the Secrets of Powerful Women podcast. If you could, please like and subscribe to my channel on Spotify or iHeart, Apple Music, Audible, and YouTube. It will help me expand the show and bring you more incredible women who are inspiring you with their stories. I am so grateful for your support, so thank you. Keep listening and share this with your friends. We're changing the world. All right, welcome back. You're listening to Secrets of Powerful Women. Stephanie Georges is with me. So Stephanie, we ended with the Meraki Dignity Project, just teasing that a little bit. And I know you spoke a little bit about it in the beginning of the show. But so what made you then leave, do the telecommunications, and you you, as you said, you went to a few companies to then co-spearheading this project for
Yeah.
women. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it was, I had this moment at similar to when I was at the gate. But I had this moment in my career where everything seemed like it was going really well, but it felt like what I kept hearing stories from women about how they were navigating systems and whether it was work or healthcare or financial services or relationships. And they just felt that they were alone and unseen. So, and that kind of kept resonating, it was, or kept getting repeated. Like, I'm really at this inflection point. I don't know what to do next. I don't know how to take that first next step. And the infrastructure around me, I mean, they maybe weren't using the word infrastructure, but the support systems around me were kind of unhelpful or maybe not there. So I thought, I feel the same way. Even though you could look at my career and say, wow, you're in the C-suite, you have what you need. It didn't feel like I had all the resources and support I had. And I wanted to I felt like I needed to make a transition. It just didn't feel right. So that got me thinking. And I wasn't sure how to take a leap. But I had the luxury. I really am grateful for this. I had an old colleague of mine back from the Wall Street days who had 10 years ago reached out to me and said, Stephanie, I'm in this fellowship. It's really hard to get into, but if you ever want, call me up and talk to me about it. It's basically helping people move into having a social impact, doing something to give back. And it's really geared towards people who have had, a good corporate journey, but they feel like maybe their career hasn't given them the opportunity to really kind of widen the aperture and leverage their skills. So I did that, and I took a year and just gave a gift to myself of like immersing myself in this, what I saw was a critical gap in the world, or at least in society, where women were increasingly having more and more influence, economic influence, health influence, workplace influence. More women were in the workforce, women were more educated, more women were getting educated. And yet, as we talked about in the beginning, the things that were in place to help them navigate didn't exist. Mm. So I went out to do a ton of research and studying what's really going on, or at least trying to understand why is there this gap. So that was this big, huge leap, like leaving my career, leaving everything, and basically saying, I'm going to take a year and immerse myself in sort of solving, or at least taking a stab at solving what I saw as a gap.
All right, so let's talk about that. This obviously led to the project, I guess, right? So you did a lot of research, as you said. You mentioned to me that over 1,000 women you spoke to, and so what did what kind of insight did you get from all of that? What do women want, Stephanie?
Yeah,
right.
That I can't answer, but I can tell you. If I knew that, wave the magic wand. Well, so we sort of focused in on women 45 and older, just because it felt like that was a really important transition moment for women. Kind of their kids were getting older if they had families. If they didn't, they were at this point in their career where they felt that either they've hit a ceiling, or even if they broke through the ceiling, it really wasn't as accommodating as they wanted it to be. Health became more of an issue. So it seemed like all this confluence of events was happening between 45 and 70 for women, sort of 45 and 60. So we started with that group. And what we learned was, first of all, 90% of the women, 90%, which is a high number of these 1,000 women that we surveyed, said there was no single resource that helped them navigate any pivot that they wanted to make in their life. They didn't point to a single resource. And in fact, the highest resource that people noted, 45%, said Google at the time. Probably today it would be Chat GPT, but then it was a Google search was how they got access to information or resources that would help them see more clearly how they might navigate the transitions. What we also learned was that there really were 4 things that women kind of tended to be navigating. So it really distilled, there were more, and I don't want to oversimplify, because the other thing we learned is every woman's journey is unique.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of similarities and there are a lot of connection points. So we found that it just kind of to bunch up into these 4 areas. Navigating a relationship change, that could be divorce, that could be, a new marriage, that could be, finding a partner. The second one, a health event. For me, a family member, most notably caregiving for an elder parent. So there was this kind of increased amount of need to kind of focus on a transition because you were undergoing some sort of health event. The third one was, oh my gosh, I feel like I need to understand my financial situation. My financial situation changed. I'm really not sure how to navigate that. And I don't feel like I am confident in working through my financial situation. Doesn't mean I don't have the financial resources. It's just, I'm not even sure like what I should be doing. And then the final one was just pure, so health, relationships, career is the fourth one. Career was, I'm not sure I want to work here anymore. I'm not sure, or I'm ready to go back to work, or I've been out of the workforce. So these were over and over again, the 4 transitions that women kept telling us that they were navigating. And what struck us was that all of those were integrated, right? So when you're navigating a health event, you're contemplating, should I stay in my job? Should I get a job? What about my money? Can I manage through this?
Right.
Are my relationships strong enough to support it? So that got us really thinking about health. When you think about it holistically, like as a whole, it's all integrated. Women's health and women's well-being, when they're navigating these transitions, can't be looked at as a silo. And I shouldn't say can't be, but aren't serving women if you're looking at them as a single event. So how could we create a place, an experience where we provide women an integrated, whole, personalized experience that would help them get the resources they need to manage through navigating these transitions? Not telling you what you should be doing, not giving you the answer, but really kind of helping you through that with integrated resources, tools, community.
I love that. I love it. So give us an example. All right. So what do you like? Someone's going through a healthcare issue. And I love that because, starting, I feel at 45, you're either, if you have kids, they're getting older, they're in teen years or heading off to college or whatever. Or if you don't have kids, you're still trying to, now I feel like I'm one of the older ones in the office and they're hiring, and is my job in jeopardy and all these other things. So give us for example, like
my mom, my mom gets diagnosed with Alzheimer's, right?
I'm sorry.
True story.
Yeah.
I don't even know where to begin. Like I'm living, at that point I was living in Colorado. My mom's living in New York. Should I move? Should I leave my job? Who's going to take care of her? Where do I go? So I start searching. I don't even know where to go. I don't even know where to start.
Right.
And it's
overwhelming. As you said, you Google. right?
Exactly. I
Right.
Google. I call
Yeah.
my sister, and then I
Yeah.
Google. And then it's
Right.
like, all right. And then she's Googling, and we're all looking. And and a couple of things that start to become clear is there's a lot out there, but
Mm.
you don't know what's real. It's, in fact, because there's so much information, it's confusing and complicated, even for the most educated and intelligent people. It's
Yeah.
really hard to know what's true. I mean, I could
Oh,
use the same example for hormone replacement therapy and
yep.
menopause, right? How much stuff is out there?
Mhm.
How do you get evidence-based, women-informed resources? So
Right.
really, really focused on women's needs,
Mhm.
not society's needs, because women are different. They navigate work different. They
Yeah.
navigate career different. They navigate health differently.
Yeah.
They're biologically different.
Yeah.
So going back to my example, so for caregiving, you would come onto a platform and you would say, it would sort of give you some options to sort of choose from, like, what's bringing you here? What is
Mm.
the need state? Where are you right
Mm.
now? And for
Yeah.
me,
Yeah.
I would have said caregiving. And then we have trained an AI intelligence layer with research-based, evidence-based, women-informed resources, tools that we start to provide you with. And that really gives you access to very, very curated, like I said, entirely for women,
Mm.
resources and tools to help you navigate that. And what we do is, as you start to have the conversation with our AI navigator, Sophie is her name, she can start to get much more granular and actually help you realize, wow, you may be needing, even though you're debating how to help your mom, you may need some health resources yourself.
Yeah.
You're stressed out. Here's some things that might come into use. So that's a scenario. But what's really exciting, that's all great. But what
Mm.
we're most excited about is we're creating a community. So once you're on there, women can get the resources, but then there are communities that form, either we've formed or women generate amongst themselves,
Mm.
around topics to sort of give them a place to be seen and heard and not feel alone. So again, this is not replacing in-person
Of course.
engagement, but what we're trying to do is give women the opportunity to reframe places in their lives, these transitions where they feel alone,
Mm.
where they don't have the resources, where they don't have the community, where they don't have the support, where they don't have the agency, and ultimately are not being treated with dignity.
Mm.
A place where that can happen.
Well, I love that. And I think, the interesting part about all of that is, like you said, oh, it doesn't replace in person, but so many of us, I feel like, we're all doing so many things and we're exhausted. But when do we take the time to sit down and talk to and actually get on the computer and look up something? Is at night, right? Often at night, or some people like lay in bed and it's 1 a.m. in the morning when your mind is racing and you can't. And that's the time, maybe, right, where AI is so great because it shows up when you need it, right?
Exactly. And
Yeah.
I mean, I'm so glad you said that, Jill, because one of the things that we found, we did an alpha. So we did a like pre-pilot
Mhm.
back in December, and we had about 100 women that
Wow.
we sort of knew to sort of help us kind of get the kinks out of our platform experience. And I got so scared because after 2 days, women were signing on. It was all anonymized, but we saw
Right.
them sign on
Sure.
and then sign off, and then sign
Ah,
on and sign off. And we were like, oh no, this is a
right.
total failure. I just
Right.
wasted my whole year. I should go back
Yeah.
to work. And what we learned was exactly what you said. They
Yeah.
started to answer the questions and they were like, oh, I
Yeah.
need some time for myself.
Yeah.
They sat down
Yeah.
and would come back on. I mean, this is what they told us afterwards,
Yeah.
and found a quiet space and were
Yeah.
grateful to use technology in a way that didn't force them to be rushed. It was
Mm.
so cool. It was so exciting because
Yeah.
I think that's another thing about technology. It's kind of trained us to just click, 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 click,
Yeah.
click. And we designed a place that honors women and
Mm.
gives them time. which is a behavioral shift.
Mhm.
So
Oh, I love that. It's so funny because I think about, like, for example, this podcast that I do, and someone told me, you should be doing half-hour shows. And I was like, but I want to have the deeper conversations. And I just don't. They're like, well, no one has an hour. I'm like, okay, well, then they hit pause and they come back, like I do. Like I listen to a lot of podcasts and even my shows and things like that. Okay, I got 20 minutes, right? So let me listen and I'll come back. But I think that's so important is, uh, you know, to listen. I think women have to start giving themselves a break and giving themselves time, and whether it's on your platform or whether it's just 20 minutes to close your eyes or watch Real Housewives or whatever you want to do, uh, take longer. Like someone said, I had someone on the podcast who's like, you know, if you took a half an hour or an hour a day, it's only 7 hours in a week for yourself. Is that so much? It's not.
yeah.
There's hundreds of hours in the week. So it's like, you know, yeah. Well,
Great. It's
obviously,
nourishing. I mean, it can
yeah,
be nourishing as
yeah,
opposed to depleting. And I think that's a big,
yeah,
I think for so much of what women do
yeah,
is depleting and
yeah.
giving, right, like you said, I mean, meditate, it could be whatever it is,
Right,
whatever you do, but
right,
giving yourself permission to have that time and
yeah,
space to dedicate to yourself and honor yourself
right.
is kind of a
Mm,
rare item. And I love the way you put it in the context of when you start to count the minutes, it's not
mm,
that much.
right. And obviously, I'm not an economic or a mathematician because there's not hundreds of hours in a week. But you know what I'm saying.
Right. It
um,
sometimes feels like it.
it does feel like thousands of hours, yes, for sure. And sometimes you feel like you're working thousands of hours and have zero time. No, but I think that's a great thing. And you know what I do want to talk about because you've been in this space, and I think this project is fabulous. But AI is so scary to some women, so scary.
Yeah.
So how do, in your opinion, how should they like navigate that and push through? That's that's a whole new world. And unfortunately, if you don't know how to use it, you're going to be left behind. I don't think they're going to, like Tony Robbins, I think I said, you're not going to be replaced by the person by AI, but you're going to be replaced by the person who knows how to use AI.
I, you,
Yeah.
you said exactly what I was going to say. I think denying that AI is going to exist or
Mm,
denying that AI is going to be part of our lives is probably
mm,
the biggest mistake you can make. I think you have to lean into it.
yeah.
And in many ways, you have to make it your own, right? And so really thinking about, just like with any technology, using it, learning to use it, don't let it use you, right? It
Mm,
is a means to an end, it's not an end. So how can it help you do your work better? How can it help you navigate things better? That's
right.
one really important thing. And if you're not literate or facile, I think you
Mhm,
will be
mhm,
left behind,
right.
period. So I'm a big believer that AI is like any technology revolution is going to change the way we do things. It
Yeah.
is a scary one because it is moving very rapidly and it does create a lot of dislocation. But
Mhm,
I think, like anything that's causing, and this is back to my career, whenever
mhm,
there are big transformations, the key is to sort of identify it and lean into it, not
mhm,
fight it, because that's where you're gonna, that's where you're gonna be left behind. So that's number one.
mhm,
I think the other thing women can do, and this is just starting, is women can begin to think about how do we build AI information, AI architectures that support women. So I actually think the world is full of bias, right?
mhm,
And most of the information that you get today is based on historical information that's predicated on research and writing and work that is male dominated. And that's
mhm.
just a fact, just because
Sure.
that's the what AI does is it gives us a clean slate to build information and AI architecture that is designed for women. So in a lot of ways, the beauty of AI for women and marginalized groups in general is that AI gives us a clean slate to actually look forward and give people more unbiased or more personalized information so that we're not part of an average. Now, that's going to take work and dedication and effort. But I think back to my first point, the more women we get involved in AI, the more women that are, young women that are learning about it, engaging with it, women of every age sort of being part of it, the more we can inform the large language models that are being built. So I think the worst thing is for us to ignore it.
Yeah, ignore
That's
it. I always think of when I think of people like, oh, I'm not doing that or I'm not using it. I think of when I was younger and the VCR came a calling, right? Became a big thing, and we all wanted it as kids. I have a big Irish Catholic family. We have 7 kids in my family, and we all wanted it, right? And my mom was like, "No, we're not. I don't know what that is. We're not using it. It's stupid. We don't need it." I don't know if she said she didn't. She never said stupid, but you know what I'm saying. But we eventually got it. She wouldn't touch it, right? She wouldn't, and we all were using it. And I just think of that, like, it's not going to stay around. This is a fad. And then you think about, I mean, gosh, VCRs and the movies and the blockbuster movies and all these things, and then eventually DVRs and then, right. And it's just like, it keeps building and growing. So don't let this be your VCR. Like,
exactly.
ChatGPT, ladies, it's free initially. Go on, Google it, right? And go on and just see and just ask them. Just ask a stupid question. Ask it anything and just see where it goes. I mean, you only have a finite a number of questions I think you can ask for the free versions, but just try it. I mean, it's kind of cool. It's very cool, actually, and that you can form a program that can help women in the toughest transitions of life. I mean, I think that's fantastic. What did you learn? I mean, I know you said, you learned the 4, the top transitions, but was there anything that surprised you that you learned researching all your research?
Yeah. You know what I was really surprised at, but then I figured out one of the things that really surprised me was women who were engaging with the platform that we had built, the early version of it, kept saying that they were focused on career. And that kind of surprised me because I really felt that at the heart of where women would be navigating was more human, more relational, or more health oriented. And what I learned was the longer women stayed and engaged, the more safe they felt. And then they started to really feel and express that their challenges or the hardest parts of their transition related to the relationships, community, connection, loneliness. So I kind of went in. So I guess, I don't know if it was sort of a surprise learning that I was sort of surprised that women were so consumed with their career, and not that they shouldn't be, but I really felt that, connectedness and loneliness and mentorship was probably a bigger issue among women, feeling alone, feeling unseen. And it took, so I learned 2 things. One is that's not really where women sort of see themselves. And then secondly, it took some engagement and time and a safe place to feel comfortable to share that. So that was kind of more of a behavioral learning that I had. So that got back to where we were talking about earlier. That really helped us think about designing a place that allowed women to feel like they could spend some time, which was totally counterintuitive to all the advice we got, which is it's got to be fast. It's got to be, you've got to be able to click through. So what I learned was women just need time and space to feel safe and seen and supported. That was a big learning.
Wow, that's amazing. You know what? Well, in this podcast that will air right before this one, so with Hannah O'Donovan. She talks about how career-wise, your relationship, your love interest, your relationships are probably one of the most important business decisions that you can make, because they can either hurt you or help you by having the right. And we've often seen, I feel like I've often seen, men come out and say, well, marrying the right woman has really helped me grow my career, or things like that. And women have said that. I don't know. I don't know how many women have said that, to be
Right.
honest, but,
Right.
but I've seen men say it, but
Yeah.
but she talks about that. So look that up.
I think
Previous
that's really
podcast.
interesting. I think that's
Yeah.
really, I will look that up because I think
Yeah.
that's a really interesting insight because, and
Yeah.
we sort of don't
Yeah.
think about how women need the support of their
Right.
partners in a
Right.
way that may be different than the type of support men want out of
Right.
their. That's really cool. Thank
Yeah,
you for.
it's very interesting. It's very interesting. Okay, so before we go, because Stephanie, you've obviously learned some incredible lessons in your career, in the decades that you worked in so many different industries, or morphed so many different ways, and it seems like you have pivoted and you pushed through the scariness of it. So is there advice to women who are thinking about making like a career transition, but are like, oh, I don't know, or I'm scared? What would
Don't
you say?
overthink. Just don't overthink it. Like trust your instincts. You know what you want deep inside. You know that's what I think that was one of the hardest things for me to overcome because I think women tend to. I don't know. I'll speak for myself. I tend to overanalyze and just think about everybody else in the
Yeah.
decision making, and it's not thinking about yourself and what you need is not selfish. It's really giving yourself permission to be your best self. I don't know how else to say it. So I think my the advice I wish I could have given myself earlier in
Yeah.
life would
Yeah.
have been, trust your instincts when it doesn't feel right or it's not,
Mm.
it doesn't feel like let frictionlessness be your friend, right? When things are smooth and things are clicking or you see the path, don't resist. There's something to it.
Mm.
And when it does feel like a lot of effort and a lot of friction, not that you shouldn't work hard, but when it feels like it's just not clicking, pay attention because that
Mm.
just might not be the right place for you at that moment in time.
Oh, I love that. I wish someone had given me that advice years ago. No, truly, I wish because you know it, right? Women know it when they're going through it, and they're somehow someone's like, no, you keep pushing on. No, you just give it all you got and work harder. Okay. That's not always the right
Not
advice. All right. So, and one more question, because I love what you're saying. Is there a lesson that you've learned in life that you want to share in all your business experience, like that women can take away, and like maybe the toughest lesson or one of the greatest lessons?
oh, you know, I think one of the greatest lessons, or maybe the toughest, I mean, I could
Sometimes they're
give
the
both
same.
sides of the coin
Yeah.
on this, is
Right.
um, your relationships are really, really important, right? So the world is small. Even though you think you're navigating a big, huge world, um, particularly as you get older and more advanced in your career or whatever part of your life, the world is a small place. So nurture those relationships, honor people's dignity, be kind, you know, connect with people. There's more we have in common than we don't, because ultimately, I found, for better or for worse, people from my early career
Yeah.
keep turning back up in my later life and vice versa. And so I think sort of, um, yeah, honoring people, knowing that the world is small and sort of seeing the goodness. And I know that sometimes can be really hard, especially in a divisive world. But it ultimately makes you feel better and it ultimately will serve you better. That's my hard learned lesson,
Yeah.
having burned some bridges, like all of us have probably.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true, and you're so funny because I feel like the same thing. The people I knew early on in my career are presenting themselves in such an interesting way and at the right time, right? And with the right whatever, in the right position. And it's just so interesting. It's just such an
But
interesting.
that's true. And being open to that, Jill, I think that's the other thing, sort of, maybe that's the little caveat, like being open to that. I think that like there is this, things happen when you're open to things happening. And I think that's really important as you navigate transitions. So those people appear, I think, like, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. I think you have to have some sense of being able to receive.
Ooh. All right. So Stephanie, where can people get a hold of you or get a hold of your program? Talk about that.
Oh, my head is down all the time, but I love, if anybody wants to reach out to us, we are literally taking signups for our beta, which is kind of right before we go to pilot. So if this sounded interesting at all, you can sign up. We're building a list. We're actually at a wait list, but we're building a list for women, and it's at merakidignity.com. You go onto our website. There's a clear place to sign up. You can sign up, or you can go onto our Substack. There's a place you can sign up there. That's also Meraki Dignity. Either way, we'd love for people to come on. This is a collaborative effort. We want women's voices in the process. So the more women we can afford to have on our platform, the better. So I guess what I'm asking, or what I'm inviting people to do, is if this sounds at all interesting, come join our beta, give us feedback, let us know what it feels like and how we can make this work for women.
Oh, I love it. All right. So you're still in the stage. You haven't officially launched yet?
We have not officially launched. So we're piloting in May.
Okay.
So we do have, and that's the pilot. So that would be your sign up. You can sign up and be part of this pilot group. And then we're launching the full, assuming all of that
works out well, the way you want it to. Yes.
Which it will. Sometime this summer, later in the summer.
Oh, how exciting.
So early onboarding.
Yeah. How exciting. So great. All right, everybody. MerakiDignity.com. That's MERAKI dignity.com. So for more information. Yes. All right. So this has been so wonderful, Stephanie. What a great conversation.
Same here. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you for coming on. And guys, I'm Jill Conway, and thank you for listening to the show, celebrating incredible women like Stephanie. And I hope you're inspired to pursue your own goals and believe in yourself and dream bigger. Your voice matters and your story can help others. So believe in yourself and keep going. I hope you join us next time. Share this podcast with a friend and follow us on Instagram. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Stephanie.
Thanks.